Welcome to our programming channel. Today in C Sharp we will see Floyd's triangle. These are rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can see this is a right angled triangle and we cannot see 0 and any negative number. So a Floyd's triangle is a right-angled triangle of natural numbers. We can see here starting number 1 on first row, then next greater number 2, then next greater number 3 on second row, then next greater numbers 4, 5, 6 on third row. Thus, it starts from 1 and consecutively selects the next greater number in sequence. We need two for loops. First for loop for rows and second for loop for columns. Printing of rows starts from row 1, then 2, 3, 4 up to 5. That is 5 rows will be printed. Outer for loop or for loop for rows will iterate, that is execute from row is equal to 1. So row is equal to 1 and row plus plus, and we want 5 rows. So condition will be row less than or equal to 5, and when we want rows according to user input at that time, condition will be row less than or equal to num of rows. Num of rows will be variable name to store rows. On first row we can see column 1. On second row we can see column 1, then column 2, and on fifth row we can see column 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 5. So inner for loop or for loop for columns will iterate from column is equal to 1, that is call is equal to 1. Call will be variable name, so call is equal to 1 and call plus plus. On first row we can see one number, that is one column. On second row we can see two numbers, that is two columns, and on fifth row we can see five columns. So number of columns is equal to number of rows. So condition in inner for loop will be call less than or equal to row. For printing numbers, we will take one variable num. First number is 1. So initialize variable num with 1. To increment number by 1, we will take num plus plus. New project, console application, Floyd's triangle, and click OK. Run the program. Could not load file or assembly. Floyd's triangle. we can see this error. So new project, console application, Floyd's triangle. Okay. Now we cannot see any exception. First we will declare variables int row comma call, variable row for rows and variable call for columns, and for printing numbers we are taking variable num and initialize it with 1. Console.writeline Floyd's triangle program. Console.writeline, we want one blank line between this title and Floyd's triangle, so we are taking this console.writeline, or we can take dotted line like this. Now this is outer for loop, that is for loop for rows. This outer for loop starts its execution from row is equal to 1 up to 5 rows, and this loop also defines number of rows. Here number of rows is 5. Inner for loop or for loop for columns. This inner for loop starts its iteration, that is execution, from call is equal to 1 up to call less than or equal to row, and in this loop we can print numbers. For printing numbers, console.write num, and number increments by 1. So num plus plus, and for new line, console.writeline and console.readline. So this is the program. Now run the program. And this is Floyd's triangle. But we want one space between 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 11 and 12. So Here num plus double quotes, and here we can give one space, two spaces, or any number of spaces. Here we are giving one space. Now we can see Floyd's triangle with 5 rows. Here we have taken 5 rows, and if we want to take rows according to user input or user choice, then console.write enter the number of rows. We will store the number entered by user in integer variable num of rows. So int num of rows is equal to console.readline, and this is integer variable, so convert.toInt32. And for one blank line, console.writeLine. And here, instead of 5, num of rows. Row is less than or equal to num of rows. And run the program. Enter the number of rows. Suppose 10 rows. This is Floyd's triangle with 10 rows. Enter the number of rows. 5. Floyd's triangle with 5 rows. Enter the number of rows. 2. Floyd's triangle with 2 rows. In this way, we can get Floyd's triangle according to user input. With F11 key, we will see the execution of program. Enter the number of rows. Suppose if we enter 4 rows, so 4, enter. Now row is equal to 1 and row less than or equal to num of rows, that is number of rows, and num of rows is 4, so 1 less than or equal to 4 condition is true. So control will enter in inner for loop or for loop for columns. Now call, that is column, is equal to 1 and row is also 1, so call less than or equal to row. 1 less than or equal to 1 condition is true. and num is 1. So 1 is printed. Here we can see 1 is printed. Now num plus plus, so the value of num will increment. So num will 2. Here we can see num is 2 now. Now second iteration of inner for loop, call plus plus. So call is 2 and row is 1. 2 less than or equal to 1. Condition is false. So control will exit from this inner for loop. Console.writeLine. So here we can see cursor is on new line or on next line. Now in second iteration of outer for loop, row plus plus. So row is equal to 2 and num of rows 4. 2 less than or equal to 4. Condition is true. So control will enter in inner for loop. Now call is 1 and row is 2. So 1 less than or equal to 2. Condition is true. Num is 2. 2 is printed. Num plus plus, num will 3. Second iteration of inner for loop, call plus plus. Call is 2 and row is also 2. So 2 less than or equal to 2. Condition is true. Num is 3. 3 is printed. Here we can see 3. Num plus plus. Now num is 4. Third iteration of inner for loop, call plus plus. Call is 3 and row is 2. So 3 less than or equal to 2. Condition is false. Control will exit from this inner for loop. Console.writeLine. So cursor is on next line. Now third iteration of outer for loop, row plus plus. So row is 3 and num of rows 4. So 3 less than or equal to 4 and this condition is true. So control will enter in second for loop. Now call is 1, row is 3. So 1 less than or equal to 3. Condition is true. Now num is 4. 4 is printed. Num plus plus. So num is 5. Call plus plus. Call is 2. 2 less than or equal to 3. Condition is true. So num is 5. 5 is printed. Num plus plus num is 6 now. Call plus plus call is 3. 3 less than or equal to 3. Condition is true. Num is 6. 6 is printed. Num plus plus now num is 7. Call plus plus call is 4. 4 less than or equal to 3. Condition is false. So control will exit from this inner for loop. Console.writeLine. So cursor on next line. Now fourth iteration of outer for loop, row plus plus. So now row is 4 and num of rows is equal to 4. 4 less than or equal to 4. Condition is true. So control will enter in inner for loop. Now call is 1 and row is 4. So 1 less than or equal to 4. Condition is true. Num is 7. 7 is printed. Num plus plus. Now num is 8. Call plus plus. Call is 2 now. 2 less than or equal to 4. Condition is true. Num is 8. 8 is printed. Num plus plus. Now num is 9. Call plus plus. So call is 3. 3 less than or equal to 4. Condition is true. Num is 9. 9 is printed. Num plus plus. Num is 10 now. Call plus plus. Call is 4 now. 4 less than or equal to 4. Condition is true. Num is 10. 10 is printed. Num plus plus. Num is 11 now. Call plus plus. Call is 5. 5 less than or equal to 4. Condition is false. So control will exit from this inner for loop. Console.writeLine. So cursor is on next line. Fifth iteration of outer for loop, row plus plus. So now row is 5 and num of rows is 4. So 5 less than or equal to 4. Condition is false. So control will exit from outer for loop and console.readLine. Now we can see Floyd's triangle with 4 rows. In this way, we can print Floyd's triangle with any number of rows. That's all for Floyd's triangle in C#. Please don't forget to subscribe the channel and like and share videos. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.